So we'll pass the mic down, and people will just give a brief introduction about what they do for you and the city, and then we'll quickly turn it over to y'all for questions. Last piece of my introduction. Most of your neighborhood watch meetings are with your police representatives because you're really focused on criminal activity, but because crime prevention is a broader issue, there are plenty of times where you may have a bigger or a question for the larger organization, you know, about solid waste collection, code enforcement, transit, streets, and that's why we're doing this from time to time. Okay, you've heard enough of me. I didn't tell a Baptist joke. Catherine already introduced herself, so we'll start here with Randy, and you can just pass it on the way down.
Thank you, Ted. My name is Randy Hume. I am the transit director for the city. We, of course, operate the fast buses as well as the fast track paratransit system, and we have been making some improvements over the last few years, and we keep growing. We're still small, but we keep growing and keep trying to make our system more convenient. I appreciate the police for letting us come to these meetings, but also letting us sort of tag into some of the community watch meetings. So I've been at some of your groups, particularly when we're making changes in your neighborhoods, and just to get that feedback. But I'd be glad to come at any time, and my number, if you want to write it down, is 433-1011.
My name is Jerry Dietzen. I'm the Environmental Services Director for the City of Fayetteville, and the services we provide are the weekly garbage collection, weekly yard waste collection, bulky item collection, dead animal collection, and we monitor and manage the contract for your curbside recycling. We also have recently have a multifamily recycling program out there, and we've done a few things over the past year or two to improve our efficiencies. You probably have seen our automated trucks going through your neighborhoods now. We are getting 4 more of those, so after this we've got about 3 left to do, and we'll be completely automated in the garbage collection side, but not on the yard waste side because it doesn't really work for yard waste collection. So by doing that, we are able to reduce our staff numbers and save some money for it to go back into the general fund for other purposes. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Carolyn Justice Henson with the Public Works Commission, and I want to thank everybody for giving us an opportunity to join in this evening. I think most people know Public Works handles our electricity, water, and sewer. I know many of you that we do come to your meetings. We may be doing annexation or sewer installation in your neighborhood, or we get requests through crime prevention to come and speak, and we are always available, and I will have some cards that have the information on how you can request that directly through us, or you can talk to your crime prevention specialist. 2 things I wanted to mention tonight, because this is something we have been starting to share with crime prevention and asking them to help us get this out to the various neighborhoods. In June, we started a new meter upgrade program, and this is going to last for about 3 years, and we were going throughout Fayetteville and replacing both our electric and water meters, but we do have a contractor who is doing that, so there's going to be someone other than PwC that will be doing this, and when they are coming to your neighborhood, we're sending out information. It's kind of far away, but we will send a postcard to tell you they're in your neighborhood, so that you can help identify them, because we know that that's really important, that you know who's in your neighborhood and what they're doing there. And then once we get, we have information on our website, and as I said, we're sharing that with crime prevention, so when we know the specific neighborhoods that they're in, we're trying to get that out to you so that you won't have to wonder, should those people be in your neighborhood or not. The other project that we are getting ready to start on, and in several of the neighborhoods last year, we did a pilot LED street lighting program. And they have been, tabulating and studying all the results of that pilot, and we should have a plan together in just probably about 2 months, Once that plan goes into place, we will be working with crime prevention. We'll have information on our website so that we can tell you when we're going to be in your neighborhood upgrading the lights to the new LED lights. So we will also, if you have a need to have us come out and speak to your community watch group to talk to your residents about that, we are definitely able to do that. So thank you.
Good evening, I'm Luis Colazo. I'm the Office Supervisor for Fayetteville Cumberland Human Relations. Our job is to promote equal opportunity and civil rights in our community. We live in a very, very diverse community with more than 4 different nationalities that live in our community. Along with that, we have more than 80 different languages that are spoken in our community. And that is a tremendous value and asset for our community, and we would like to keep it that way, but that takes some work. We have programs and activities where we bring people together so we can getting along and having a good relationship. We also handle complaints and discrimination in fair housing and employment, as well as being responsible for the program of compliance with the American Disabilities Act for the city. We have many partners in the community. We are very active in the community. And like I said, we live in a great community because it's very diverse and we like to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Victor Sharp. I'm the Community Development Director. The City of Fayetteville, in its Community Development Department, receives funding from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Those funds are Community Development Block Grant Funds and Home Investment Partnership Funds. With those funds, we were able to provide a variety of programs to improve our community and our neighborhoods. We focus on housing with programs such as housing rehabilitation programs, affordable housing, as well as an acquisition and demolition program that focuses on removing blighted properties throughout our neighborhoods. We also have community development programs that assist residents in areas such as water and sewer, hookups, and as beautification or neighborhoods.
strategically located throughout the city at various departments. The one thing that we'd like to say in our community is that we are a part of the community. Our stations are in your community, in our community. We invite you to stop by, become familiar with our personnel and what we have to offer and our resources. And to count on us because we also count on you. You hear a lot of talk about our response times, perhaps, but you play a key role in that because we do not respond until we get the information through the communication center, the 911 system. So we all have a role to play. We invite you to, like I said, come by, stop by, speak to us, find out how we can help you and how you can help us. If you need any additional information, feel free to stop by our station or to contact me. My number is 433-1429. We're currently, the administration offices are currently in City Hall, but by the end of the month, we will relocate to Station 14, which is located on Langdon Street, just across from Fayetteville State. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lee Jernigan. I'm the city traffic engineer. I'm here tonight as one of two gentlemen representing the engineering and infrastructure department with the city, representing Mr. Rusty Thompson, the director of engineering and infrastructure, which was unable to be here this evening. Again, I am the city traffic engineer. We're one of 5 groups that make up engineering and infrastructure, and we do signs, signals, pavement markings. We also manage downtown parking. We also respond to citizens' requests if you have speeding in your neighborhood. If any of y'all have been exposed to that, I'm sure that's a pretty frequent occurrence. So we respond to that as well. We also, as I mentioned, manage our downtown parking and the parking deck and maintain those facilities. Other departments within the engineering and infrastructure division, I'll let Mr. Riddle describe the construction management, but we also have our engineering division, which designs projects and plans to maintain and improve our infrastructure. We have our infrastructure maintenance division, which is the folks that are historically been called the street maintenance folks that patch our potholes, repair our drain lines, repair storm sewers and things of that nature. We also have our stormwater division that inspects and provides guidance for stormwater facilities and features around the city. They also inspect complaints for that. And we have our real estate division, which purchases property for the city and purchases property for each one of these other departments here throughout the city. So again, I'm Lee Jernigan. I'm the city traffic engineer, and our office number is 433-1660. Thank you.
Last but not least, my name is Jeff Riddle. I'm the construction manager for the city of Fayetteville. And like Lee said, we're a division from engineering infrastructure. And our office primarily manages and inspects all the street paving in the city. We're responsible for inspecting all roadway construction. Naturally, that includes the asphalt, the curb and gutter, pipelines, and the sidewalks that's being installed. We also inspect commercial sites and private developments. And pretty much any construction that's going on in the city that the city's in control of, I'm the contact person, and you can call me at 433-1661. And again, my name's Jeff Riddle. Thanks.
Great, so that's who's up here. I also want to call Christoph Bauer up. He is Deputy City Manager for operations, so he has a group of departments that he looks after and works with for me. We also have Deputy City Manager Rochelle Small-Toney. I'm not sure if she's walked in yet, but she was on her way, and so she'll probably walk in a few minutes. She looks after some other departments. And then there's a group of departments that's not here. Those are mostly our support services folks, so finance, HR, budget, our IT department. and they have an assistant city manager who works with them. And I told them they can all go home and be with their families because nobody here wants to hear about how we pay our bills and hire people, and that's boring, right? So, but if you do have questions about that, you can ask them, and we'll try to answer it anyway. But they didn't come tonight, but we sure need them to get our jobs done. So that's who's here. Where did Christoph? There he is. Did you want to say anything? No? Yeah. I would say the same thing. I did want to make one other comment before we turn it over to you, and that is. I know that some of you are aware that if you're having some issues with services, you know, a pothole, you want to call it in, or your trash collection or your yard waste, there is a phone number, 4331-FAY, 4331-FAY, and I wanted you to know that we are working with the Public Works Commission to consolidate our call center. We'll probably be able to keep the same number, but you may know that when you call PwC to work on a bill or something like that, they have a call center as well. And we think this is an exciting opportunity to combine our call center technology and staff to create a better call center experience for you. The Public Works Commission has a very fine call center. The city's call center is much smaller, and we've had some challenges with wait times, with our technology also not really being up to speed. And then frankly, we've had some staff turnover. So rather than just kind of work on that separately, we have a plan to consolidate those functions in October. And so we're really excited about the possibility of having a much more robust call center and some additional software technology that may allow you to do reporting with your smartphones. And so we're working on that right now. I don't want to do a rollout discussion about it too much because it isn't in place yet. But hopefully before too long into the year, we'll have some very exciting new things going on. And we're doing some new technology in solid waste too, in environmental services, that will help us track our trucks and make our routes more efficient and be able to report things they see on the side of the road with a click of a button so that we can get somebody out there to pick up. And I know that some of y'all have probably been involved in reporting things in your neighborhood. Say, hey, why didn't this get picked up? Well, often it's because nobody called it in, right? Often a vacant house, they dumped the stuff in the front and they took off. So they're not going to necessarily call it in. So if we don't know, we can't get it. Well, this will allow a driver who's picking up the regular route to say, oh, look at that, that's out. Press a button, and they just keep moving on. But the report comes out in environmental services for them to route the special crew that needs to go. Because an automated single driver tipping those cans can't really get out and pick up mattresses and couches and all this stuff. So we want you to know that we are working. Even as we speak, we are working on projects to improve our services and communication and our interface with you. All right, I did say too much. And here's Rochelle, who I mentioned a minute ago. Rochelle is over our community investment portfolio. So those are the departments up here that are working to build a better community, and Christoph is here with the departments that are doing day-to-day services, basically is how I look at it. Okay, what can we do to further answer your questions, or what can we talk to you about that will help you engage with us and make your neighborhoods better, safer, and make it a better community? Do we have microphones out there? Do we want people to raise their hand, or what do you think? I can maybe see you. I'm going to need new glasses pretty shortly. I see a green shirt.
John Decker from Southgate. I got a comment that will lead to a question. The mediums in the road, especially the one that Riley Road and Cliffdale Road, somebody has hit those, which happens often at night, broke the end off into about 10-pound chunks, and people have been running over those and putting them back together for a month. The question is, why can't we get the ends of these things painted like the cement night?
Yes. Doesn't that fall under DOT?
I don't care whose it is.
Ma'am. Didn't take long for a question to come up about traffic. Yes, sir, that's a challenge that we've had with the installation of medians, and one thing I did neglect to mention when I was introducing engineering and infrastructure is one of our responsibilities is maintenance of streets within the city, but that's city-owned and maintained streets, which we have about 780 miles within the city that we maintain, and 90% of them, and that's not an exact number, so don't write that down, but the large majority of them are neighborhood streets. The larger roads such as Riley, Cliffdale, Bragg Boulevard, Morganton Road, Cliffdale, All-American, they are still maintained by NCDOT. And I'm saying that to get to your point. They are progressing more towards medians within the roadway, and that's from a safety aspect. With those installations, there's lessons learned that medians may not need to protrude as far into the intersection as they have installed in the past. What I will do is I'll note that location and I'll bring it to their attention. As far as delineating the ends of them, that's it sounds simple, but that's a very challenging thing to do, and over the years we've tried different types of treatments to make that a little more visible. Again, like I said, especially at night and especially as the concrete darkens to match the asphalt or the pavement, the distinction between the two becomes harder and harder to see. So, but I will make note of that and forward that along to NCDOT, and if there's some obstructions in the street that we can go clear as a city group, we'll do that too. We'll check into that tomorrow.
Okay. Oh, good. We got lots of questions coming now. Thank you for breaking the ice. Thank you. Appreciate that. We'll start front to back. There's a gentleman in a white hat here. Maybe your band hat.
Good evening. I'm Earl Thomas from the Hillendale West community. I'm Earl Thomas from the Hillendale West community, and for the past 8 months we've been trying to improve our neighborhood. We want to change our entrance signs. We have 2, and right now we run into a lot of roadblocks. It's saying that we will have to put the sign 15 more feet into the people's yards. That is where it is now, and we need to know what can we do to get past all of this.
So the question is about neighborhood entrance signs.
Yes.
They want to fix up the one they have, and they're getting feedback that they may need to be relocated because they might be too close to the road. That also sounds like a Lee question to some extent, but it
could be, or that could be a zoning issue. I'm not sure. Make sure we get your contact name and information before you leave this evening, and we'll track down who exactly we need to have address that with you. Okay?
Lee will chase that down. I know that sometimes there's an easement issue. It might be over utilities, and that would be the case where PwC would be concerned. You don't want to build something over a water or sewer line or buried electric cables. And then other times, if it's on DOT, they have some setback rules and some conditions for how those signs are constructed, so they meet standards for being breakaway. So if someone crashes into them, the sign breaks instead of the car. And frankly, there's overlapping departments and rules, whether it's state or local, whether it's easements or right-of-way that get into that. But Lee will get in touch with you and try to help you through those.
A little bit more information to kind of help you to understand. We already have 2 signs.
Right.
And the problem is the city is saying we got to move them 15 feet further into the yard from where they are now.
And what a lot of people will run into in neighborhoods that are more than 15, 20 years old, let's say, is the standards have changed, or construction that was in the county before it was annexed may not have been well reviewed. I mean, just to be blunt, there were lax standards, and so there's some recovery from that over time, that when things are replaced, they need to conform to newer standards. And I think we saw somebody back behind there. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Nancy Torres with LaGrange Community Watch. I have several questions, so I don't know who's going to answer me. First, with the
pass the mic around.
First, with the trash pickup stuff, you basically hit on what I was going to ask about. As houses where people have abandoned the houses, and then the realtors have hired people to go in and clear the house out, and then it sits there for weeks.
Yeah.
And like you said, I've been wondering why the men who drive the garbage trucks can't call in and say, look, this has been sitting here for 2 weeks now. Can we pick it up, or you can put in a work order for it? Also, I was wondering, I didn't see anybody up here from the real estate companies, why the realtors, if they can hire somebody to clean all that stuff out of these houses, whom they hire, why can't they hire them all the way through to clear it out and tow it off? You know,
That would be nice. Jerry, you want to?
Yes, ma'am, that's a good question. We come up against that a lot in our work. And if it's a contracted service from a homeowner's property manager, they should carry it all the way through. And when they don't, which they don't on some occasions, then we have to contact the owner of that home and give him a reasonable time to get that cleared up. We are working with Public Works Commission and some other avenues to see if we can speed that process up. Those talks have just begun. We know it's a problem, and we're trying to work through that to shorten that period. If it does stay out there and it becomes like a traffic hazard or a health hazard, we can make a decision from that point to go ahead and collect it and then just bill the owner. So we are working through those things, and if you would just let us know where they are as soon as you can, and we can put those on the time clock and get them cleaned up.
and my next question is for Mr. Lee,
Okay.
down there. Is that Lee?
Hey, Lee, you got another traffic question up here.
Hey, Nancy.
I live on Riley Road. I'm with LaGrange, and I appreciate the dividers you have put up in the middle of the road. The ones that you put up between the apartment buildings, the new apartment buildings and LaGrange, the U-turns and the caution signs have been knocked down. They've been down for a week. As for your questions, they were nice enough to put the little reflector, yellow reflector things all the way around ours. So it might be an idea for you. They didn't put them far enough on the ground where we have to plow the roads and they get all plowed up again. They put them up. So that might be a start for you. One question I have with the lights on Riley Road, I've asked this almost for 2 years now. Why can we not have, because we have a lot of kids walking across Riley Road to Hardee's and Food Line. I have asked several times for a traffic signal where the hand is up for crossing the street, because we've had, since I've been Community Watch president, we've had 2 people hit there at the intersection, and I would really, really hate to see a young child hit there, or anybody, adult. So again, I'm asking you, would you please look into that possibility of putting the hand crossing up for us for safety reasons?
Yeah, Nancy, I want to make sure I'm clear on that first part of your question. You said the signs was knocked down along Riley at the U-turn there, at the old Santa Fe stub?
No, right, you put up the new apartment buildings by TLC,
Okay.
the water place, and right, there's a new apartment building, and you put up a divider there, so people coming out wouldn't really mess with us too much and vice versa. But the traffic signs have been knocked down, the cautions,
Okay.
the left turn signs have been knocked down. It's been a week now.
Okay, we'll get that checked out. And the second part of your question, this DOT kind of put out a call for projects for a program they have called Safe Routes to School. And as a part of that call, the city submitted a request to do some sidewalk along Morganton Road. As a part of that, your intersection at Morganton and Riley was included for pedestrian signals. So actually that sidewalk will be from Riley west all the way beyond McFadden along Morganton Road to tie in at Bonanza. So there'll be pedestrian.
We already have that sidewalk up.
There's pieces of it there. This will be on the south side.
For a crossing to get across to Riley Road.
Correct, but as a part of that big sidewalk project, pedestrian signals with a hand and all will be installed at the intersection with the traffic signals at Riley and Morganton.
That's going to take 2 more years?
And, you know, again, that DOT is designing and installing. That's about a $600,000 project that they've got. So it's in design right now, and as soon as we can push them
If it
along.
saves one life, isn't it worth 600,000? If it saves one life.
Yes, ma'am. It's funded and it'll be constructed, and we'll be involved with them to review the plans and make sure we can push them along as fast as we can.
Okay, thank you.
But it is coming.
Yeah, and the city manager, you're improving our Fayetteville, and I read in the paper where they're talking about putting swimming pools or the, what do you call those, water pads up? Is any coming our way on by Raleigh Road section over here, our neighborhood over here? Because all of y'all seem to forget we exist. Well, okay. I've been begging for something over in Raleigh Road. I've been Community Watch president for 12 years. And I've been begging for something for us over in that area as Parks and Recreation, something for us, because you hit on crime in our neighborhood. We don't have anything for our kids to do. They have a recreation center at Westover, but again, we had to cross Riley Road where there's no help to get to them because parents are working, they can't take the kids. You know, we need something on our side of town to occupy teenagers, not the younger kids, but teenagers, to keep them from roaming our streets day in and day out. Now, I like the curfew that y'all are trying to push. I really believe in that. Yeah.
Well, currently, and Michael Gibson again in charge of Parks and Recreation. Currently, the school across the street, Ben Martin, is what we call a school park. We just put up a canopy shelter, but we don't have a recreation center in that area.
No.
The park is the closest thing that we have. We had some attempts to work on Parks and Recreation a couple of years ago, and currently the council has been gracious enough to add $2 million to our capital project. So over the next month and a half, we'll be talking about what to do with that monies. But
So
we don't have any money.
We might see it in another 5 years? I'm sorry. I don't mean to pick on you. I'm frustrated.
I understand. I'm frustrated too. I'm trying to be careful up here because I need to work tomorrow.
Okay, so I'm not going to be careful. You need to talk to your city council and tell them what you want. The voices that have been against change or no tax increase no matter what or any of that kind of stuff have been louder than the voices that said, you know what, we want to be competitive with the other very nice places to live in our state.
Yeah,
and they've all passed us by, and nothing's free.
No, it's not, but we want it on the outside of downtown.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Downtown
And so you need to
out here we have nothing.
You need to talk to your council members, and they need to hear a consistent message that investment in municipal facilities that benefit citizens is important to you.
Okay, answer me this, sir. What program do you have for teenagers in this neighborhood, my neighborhood, anybody's neighborhood, to join in to keep them off the streets, from running the streets and committing crime? Do we have anything like that for our
So I will give the mic back to Michael to talk about the programs, but it's true that the locations where we have the programs are not as predominant out in your part of town. I mean, we do actually have them spread around, more so than some cities, but we're short in the facilities we need for a community of this size. And it's an ongoing challenge. We need to be consistently investing in our infrastructure and our programs over time, because if you stop, the population keeps going and you turn around and you're behind again. And we just haven't done it for many years enough.
One more question, I'll leave you alone. Do we have, and this might be for more towards the police department or something like that, we have kids that are like on their last legs before going to jail or something like that. Do we have any program for them, like you say on TV, jail time, they can go in and see the jails, see how the people are living in there, like a wake-up call for them or something to help?
Well,
Scared Straight.
Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about too is we do have programs for youth. We have a dedicated person for our youth development program that specifically focuses on teens and giving them an opportunity to figure out what to do with their lives and how to navigate to a successful life. And one of the things that I believe in personally with young people, especially when they get to middle school and they start to figure out what their reality is in life and how they see themselves earning money and making a way for themselves and buying houses or getting educated or buying cars. One of the things that we believe with our youth development program is to give them an understanding of how that gets done. Most of the times what young people want to do is, everybody wants to be successful. There's most people who are taught anything understand success, especially when you're living in America. So I think one of the things that we're doing in depth in Parks and Recreation is trying to make sure that they understand how to do it. If you want to give me your name and number, I'll make sure that Crystal Glover, who's our Youth Development Director, can come out and talk to you, and if we can focus in on where those teens are. Normally they're over at Westover Middle School, and we have a program over there that they can come into, and we have a lot of kids. But the one thing that I always talk about, and I did it over at Massey Hill, is every community needs a champion. Every community needs somebody that kids can have an opportunity to bounce things off. Most people nowadays, and in some places rightfully so, we close the door. Just walk on by. So you have to contribute when you're working with teenagers, because they're looking for a way to be successful. And once they give up and they start doing things that say, you know, that's not productive in the community or in society, it's hard to try to bring them back. So we're trying to figure out a way to make sure we bridge that gap and give them an opportunity to figure out how to be successful. And we believe our youth development program is doing that now.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Is there anybody in our law enforcement team that knows anything about whether we have Scared Straight or anything like that, or whether they work? If anybody has a comment.
So I guess what I would say, I don't think we have a Scared Straight. I've never heard of that here. But we have a lot of programs and resources, and I think it's more important that we find out who the youth are, what the problems are, so that we can tailor that response to fit the needs of the youth and the family that might be experiencing a problem. We have a juvenile assessment center, we have mentoring programs. There's a lot going on here in this community, and it's a matter of matching up the right resource with the kids that need the resources.
Thanks, Chief. And there was a good article about the Police Activities League in the paper recently, and a number of our personnel volunteer as coaches to do some different things with youth. Okay, where am I going? I'm going to point back to Massey Hill.
No, not Massey Hill. My name is Keith Quinn. I'm the assistant coordinator for the Cliffdale West Community Watch, and I have a couple of issues too, starting with throwing out a name, the name being Wendell C. Horn, who is our #1 man on performing inspections in the neighborhoods. It is my understanding that he's going to retire in 80 days or less, and no one's been identified to replace him. And he has informed us that he will not be replaced until after he has already departed, which is going to leave an underlap in ensuring that we are able to contact somebody to get the inspections done and somebody to instill the fear of the city in some of these remotely located landlords that don't take care of their properties.
It is a great question, and I wasn't here at the start of the meeting, and I apologize for that. I'm Scott Schufert, I'm the Development Services Director, and the code enforcement area is under my purview. Okay. Mr. Horn has just recently submitted his resignation. Our policy is that we fill the positions after someone is vacated. Our plan is to obviously to not leave your area high and dry. We will have an inspector in that area, and we will be starting the process to replace Mr. Horn well in advance. He gave us plenty of notice. He's not leaving until October. We will start the recruitment process. Hopefully we'll have somebody on board. That person will not have the same experience Mr. Horn has unless we assign a different inspector with more experience to your area. It will depend upon how we allocate the resources. But you will not be left high and dry. We'll continue our proactive enforcement, and your community will have the code enforcement that it's come to expect.
Okay. And on the basis of our relationship with Mr. Horn, he's done a heck of a good job out there. He needs to be identified as such.
I will relay that message to him and to his immediate supervisor.
Okay. My next issue concerns whether or not the city has some sort of liaison with those utilities that don't fall under the purview of PWC. In that, Cliffdale West is supported by Lumbee River for electricity, and Aqua, North Carolina for water. And on more than one occasion, we have butted heads, for lack of a better way to put it, over what we expect of them versus what they're providing us. An example, by virtue of being the assistant coordinator, I do the majority of my touring of the neighborhood in the evenings. The lighting in our area is severely lacking at best, and I've approached Lumbee River with that and been told that if I can identify specific street lights by number and location, they will be more than willing to come out and dump out the bugs that have accumulated in there, or even upgrade the lighting. We're going through a process now where our lighting is being upgraded based upon the old light bulbs going out. So in some of our streets, we've got 13 different color bulbs, and nothing looks very consistent. And in some cases, there's so many bugs or other debris in the lights themselves. They're the old circular jobs that cast a glow all the way around 180 or 360. And if they're full of bugs, they don't like worth a hill of beans. I also know that under the purview of PWC, at times you go out and you trim tree limbs and things of that nature to provide better lighting. That's not being done in our neighborhood. And I've even asked them to assess whether or not the lighting that was installed eons ago even meets city code insofar as the distance apart and whether or not it's putting out enough lumens to provide us the lighting we need. Lighting has an impact on security. Okay? And I've tried to address that with them. They expect me to go around from light to light, identify the code numbers and all the rest of that jazz, and then provide them a sheet indicating what's wrong with a particular light. Again, we need somebody to liaison with these guys and let them know that we're part of the city, they're providing us a service that's supposed to meet the standards of the city, and to this point they're not.
Sir, I'll handle the first part as far as aqua water. I'll let Lee handle the electric side of it and the light. The city issues excavation permits, and aqua water knows that they are supposed to take them out. Now, they are generally, in the past, they will kind of skate around it and not get it because they're on the western part of town, and somewhat not knowledge. We have a monthly UCC meeting, which is a utility coordinating committee meeting, and Aqua occasionally shows up. But if you take my number down, 433-1661, if there's any patches in the road out there that they're not repairing, I've got contacts to Aqua, and if they don't fix it, we'll hold up the permits where they cannot work in the road. So you be sure to call me. I'll get up with, I've got direct contacts to them, and they will correct that problem, okay? And he'll handle the light.
Just recently, they've taken care of one of the issues at one of our intersections. So in that respect, they are doing things, because the last time we went to one of these sessions about their raising the rates, we raised Cain about the prospect of their having water actually coming up from under the road surface, and they're not repairing it until 1 or 2 days later. And they want to raise the rates to pay for the water that's being run down the storm drain.
We issue a payment and fix it. You give me a call, we'll take care of it. And what happens is, what they'll do is this. They hire a sub to do the payment. They don't have a payment crew. So they'll be lax, and they'll go out there and they'll have several cuts, and then they'll call it, because the pavement crew don't want to come out there and have a half a ton of asphalt to put down. But that's no excuse. Their job is to repair it regardless, even if they have to use some alternative means like cold patch or something until that pavement crew can get there. Or even stone that they have to maintenance, where you don't have problems with rutted out roads. So I've got some great contacts at Apple. You get me that information, I can tell you, I can get them out there, we'll start holding the permits.
Your road maintenance supervisor also lives at Cliffdale West, and I know him real well.
Okay.
And you know
And I'll be glad to help you with that.
I appreciate it.
And yes, sir, the lighting, there are other providers in the city other than PWC. There's Duke Energy now, Lumbee River, and South River. And they somewhat have different criteria for street lighting. Most likely that was installed before the annex ever came through, and it was, so most likely you're correct. It's not to the current city lighting ordinance. We battle with some things that are inconsistent as well, but again, I'll be glad to check them out, get in touch with you and see if we can identify in some way. Yeah, I don't disagree with you in that they rely on us to identify to them what are working and not, but that's been historically the way it has to be done and get it repaired. So maybe there's a way we can work together in order to at least identify that and approach Lumbee River to see what options we have to improve that. There's some cost sharing that's a little different for the membership corporations than it is for PWC and Progress Energy. So, we'll work through that with you as well. But let me again get your contact information, or I'll provide you mine now if you'd like to have it. Again, it's Lee Jernigan in the City Traffic Services Office, and the number's 433-1153 is my direct number, or 433-1660. And if we can get together before we leave, I'll be sure to get yours as well, and that way we'll make sure we can see what we can do to get it improved.
And since you're on the horn, I got one more for you.
All right. Yes, sir.
It hasn't happened lately simply because school is out. But at some of these locations where there are bus stops, there are also stop signs or other street signs. We had one in particular where the youngins decided they were going to play a game on people at the stop sign. They took it out of the ground and turned it around. So I took it out of the ground and put it back. A day later I went out and they took it out of the ground and faced it in an opposite direction. Are these things being secured, or is this something the kids are going to be able to play with?
There's a few little construction methods we can use if we can identify. That's not a typical problem that we have, but if there's a situation that is occurring, that's where we would rely on y'all to contact us, and there's some things we can do to go out and make it a little more difficult for them to pull the signs up, things like that.
They come out and they replanted it deeper than it was before, but I can see where the kids have already started working on it, softening up the ground around it.
And one thing we've had this come up one other place that I've been aware of. So we'll work with the school system as well, and if they can identify those kids, that are at that stop, the school system has been able to create some discipline for them as well. So again, if we can identify that location, identify that bus number, again, that's where we kind of rely on y'all to be our eyes and ears. And we have a good relationship with the school system, and we can point that out, and they'll keep an eye out for it.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We've got some other panel members up here this evening, too. So.
Who do we see about getting a four-way stop in our community? That there's been quite a few wrecks there. Babies have been hurt in wrecks. Kids that don't even have driver's licenses are driving through there, hitting cars and stuff.
That would be our office, yes, ma'am. We could take a look at that. What's your particular intersection? Juniper and Ponderosa. Well, Jeff is going to write that down for me.
Also, I guess it was probably a month, I'm not going to have to go with our community watch members. We see
juniper and ponderosa. Okay, and I'll see you afterwards and make sure I get some contact for y'all so we can be back in touch.
Because the hedges are so high, you can't see either way going. And you can't see around the stop sign. So I'm wondering, who do we see about a four-way stop there?
Yes, ma'am. We'll take a look at that.
Okay, thank you. And right beside you, not to direct to you, not only are there hedges there, very tall, but someone called the fire department and they came and trimmed out, there's a fire hydrant right there. And those hedges is covered, so there's a fire hydrant, tall hedges, and there's, we need four-way stops. That's 1, 2, 3 of you that need help.
So some of you probably can't hear in the back, but what we're talking about is sight distance at intersections where you can't see. And we do have crews who will go out and inspect from the engineering and infrastructure department. And if they see that there's an obstructed view near that intersection, they'll notify the homeowner and tell them they need to trim the hedges. And if they don't trim the hedges within a certain period of time, we'll trim the hedges. We try to be nice when we do it, but you'd prefer to do it yourself, I think, if you're trying to maintain your landscaping, because our trimming might remove things just to make it easier. So do get in touch with us. I mean, if you can't notify the homeowner themselves, I know sometimes that's a challenge, we'll do that for you, and we'll just notify them they need to trim it, and they got a week or two or whatever, and then we'll do it.
We normally give the property owner an opportunity to trim it themselves. And we're willing to work with them, you know, if it's someone that may be elderly. But just like Ted said, you can trim it a lot nicer than we can. So we would prefer it, you know, to go ahead and take care of it. Please promote that to your community. Watch folks, go ahead and take care of it, and everybody's happy. If we go, it might be a little more aggressive than what the homeowner would like it to be. So that's exactly how we investigate.
After the accident, they trimmed about that much where you can see the stop sign, but still that has not been trimmed. Fire hydrant or around, because it's on the corner. I mean, we've tried, but it's going to take a little more authority.
There is a requirement for, a clearance requirement for the fire hydrant, and we'll have someone go by and look at that.
Very good. This gentleman was been competing for a while.
All information, my name's James Lacey, Cross Creek area. Being as the lady back here brought up the subject, I wasn't going to say anything, but I've spoken before the city council probably 4 times in the last, say, 3 years. Talking about an intersection that I think is dangerous, and incidentally, I walked in some shoes as far as a firefighter out in Los Angeles. I was an Orange County sheriff for about 5 years out in Los Angeles. That county is close to 4 million population. So I can sympathize with you with a city that is growing. Bingham and Lake Ridge. If you come up from Rayford Road, past the food line, and you're heading out Bingham toward Hope Mills, you come to churches and food line, and then you see a pretty good sized development on the opposite side of Bingham. You'll be turning in on Lake Ridge. Talked to a gentleman at City Hall about a year, maybe about pretty close to about a year ago, maybe a little bit more. And he did work for the city. They have had some accidents at this intersection. Now, I called DOT. I talked to DOT, and they would not give the city access to a proposed development directly across from where you have apartments, condominiums. They're putting up some kind of commercial building across the street there. I understand the same developer also owns the property that they anticipate putting about 18 units, 18 buildings or whatever, of apartments or condos, and that would be just past where you would turn in on Lake Trail off Lake Ridge, off of Bingham, and it's not very deep as far as the depth from the road to the back. We got a hold of, my wife and I got a hold of the plans way back then, and the parking is going to be out in front, the buildings are going to be in the back. Well, what the city did, they went ahead and okayed, and they did a curb cut. So if you're coming in off of Bingham onto Lake Ridge, there's about 28 feet there, and then you've got this curb cut for cars to go back in there, which I assume they're going to tear down all the pine trees and everything. I asked the gentleman at City Hall, were you going to put I told him, I said, this is really close there. And I said, you're going to have some, and so far, I've almost got hit 3 times by a school bus. It's a very tight turn for a big vehicle. We've also noted over a period of time, fenders and bumpers and everything laying there. They'll lay there for 3 or 4 days, and somebody picks them up, hauls them away. So they have had some accidents, which I have not witnessed. But I don't think I want to be involved in it. So I told this gentleman, I said, well, come out and take a look at it. I said, he said, well, DOT wouldn't give us access. He said, we'll just wait and we'll see how it goes, how many wrecks we have in that. And this is where you get to where, and I can tell you right now, government agencies throughout the U.S., it does cost a lot of money to put up these lights and all this kind of stuff. But there are cities in the United States that actually go by, you have to have so many fatalities at that intersection before they will fork over the money or do something about it. So I would like to have whoever representative this falls on from your upper management meet me out there so we can take a look at this. Or I'll be back at City Hall before the City Council again.
So again, that's going to be Lee. Well, it's not surprising. I mean, traffic's an important thing. We all deal with it every day. There are things called warrants. We have to, to put a signal in, you need to meet certain warrants. And it is true that fatalities are one of the warrants. That's not the only reason that you put up a signal.
And we've spoken before, Mr. Lacey, and we're glad to meet you and a DOT representative there, because that is not a signal that we maintain in the city, but it is in the city limits. That signal is actually installed by that developer on the opposite side of the street from where you're referring to from Lake Ridge. So
yeah,
we're glad to set up something and meet you out on site with the DOT representative and us and see if we can come up.
Yeah, correct. And we also made a few phone calls when they were developing the property, and they never had a flagman out there or anything. And here these big trucks, they just basically muscled their way right out there. And I actually witnessed a couple of really close calls, and we called and finally got somebody out there as a flagman. But I talked to the gentleman at City Hall, and I said, well, when they come around this corner here, and you've got a lane that's going to be going that way, and you got lanes going straight, and you got one's going left, and you got the incoming. I said it's about 28 feet, which is about 3 car lengths, say, from the stop when you turn onto the road. I said, are you going to put a stop sign there or anything? No, we're not going to do anything with that. And I said, well, you're going to have a real free-for-all, like bucket cars at the county fair. And the only thing is, you may have some people that actually get killed. So I'm to the point right now that I'll be talking to you.
Sure. And I would say that while some of these decisions are made by DOT, some are made by the city, depending on whose street is whose.
Well, DOT said that we would not give the city.
Right.
Because when I going back to one of your curb cuts there, the reason I got a hold of this guy too was I hit one of those where you come out of the Hope Mills Walmart on the Hope Mills Road. They did, after a period of time, they did chisel that thing down because I almost ripped the undercarriage out from underneath my van.
Yeah, and sometimes things change, right? So, as the development occurs, as experience happens, we may have a better chance at getting a different solution. And I think we view ourselves as citizen advocates. We're technical experts trained to try to figure out what might be the answer that would need to be in place for DOT to see things a little differently. So, we try to work with you to help.
I've already been through my representative, Bill Cripp, and DOT will not budge. And the other thing is, I don't know who in your development division okayed the development for the 18 buildings, and you can figure there's going to be 4 units in each building there, and you're going to have one way in, one way out. And I asked the gentleman at City Hall, I said, well, what's the fire department say? I said, you only got one way in and one way out. And of course here you don't get Santa Ana winds like we do out in Southern California, Orange County, and LA. But there's only one way in and one way out, And some of those people, when they're in a hurry to get to work, you're going to think that they're trying to run away from the fire. And so I'll see you out there, Lee.
Okay.
I'll be calling you or something.
Make sure we get your contact, and I'll set something up with us, and we'll go out there and take a look.
And I'm wondering who okayed the development.
All right, we're gonna move on to get some more questions in. We got a lot of people. Everybody's whistling and all that stuff. The gentleman in front.
Sir?
Yes?
Good evening. How are you doing?
Oh, that was a good trip. Yes. What's your question?
By any means necessary. Good evening. My name is Wanda Blunt-Orberry, and I'm from the Brook Run community. And this evening, I would like, first of all, I'd like to say thank you, catering. The food was good. And on another positive note, I would like to thank the city for the ongoing installation of the sidewalks, which is a positive note. We appreciate that. And my issue that I bring before the panel this afternoon is the traffic light at the intersection of Prestige and Cliffdale that leads into Brook Run. Are you tracking me?
Prestige and Cliffdale.
Yes, that leads into Brook Run.
Into the Brook Run, okay?
Yes, if you're going west, coming east from Cliffdale, Cliffdale Post Office, going west,
okay,
at the western end. And you have the four-way intersection, which Montebello sits on the right and Brook Run sits on the left.
Yes.
So that's Prestige Boulevard, Cliffdale, going into Brook Run.
Right.
You have to play Russian roulette. And I'm serious when I say that with our lives. And we've addressed this to go into Brook Run. There is a blinking light that allows you to go in. But if you're sitting on the eastern end going upward, you can't see a truck or car or what's behind it. So many times, I have almost gotten hit. We've had how many accidents there? God knows, I can't tell you.
So you have a flashing or yellow arrow that gives you permission to turn, but you're saying sight distance over the hill or it's not?
No, you aren't at a hill. You're actually stationary, where the traffic is here and you're here. You got the flashing light, and then you got to try to beat that light before they can turn. We've had 2 cars go into a lady's pool. No, I'm serious. She woke up in the light, tore down her fence twice in the summer.
Lee, you got that intersection, you can look at it?
You guys have did a study, and this is what they came back with us. They did the traffic thing, counted the number of cars. Brook Run has approximately 78 homes there. It's a small community. However, they were saying that we don't constitute enough of traffic going into there in order to have a blinking green light or yellow light to go in there, or red light. But I'm saying my life should constitute enough for traffic to go in there.
The trips are an important factor in whether it's a dedicated turn arrow or not, but there are other factors and they'll look at it. And if I mean, with the issue of sight distance, and they'll look at that.
Again, that's a signal that's maintained by DOT, and but we'll be glad to be a liaison between you and them and work to see if we can get something.
We thank you for that. Yep. Second thing I had was, could someone give me the whole guidelines on trash cans being left out 365 days a year in front of the yard?
Yes, ma'am, I'd be glad to. When trash day comes, you're allowed to take your cart out the night before, and after trash is collected, you should bring your cart in that evening. If you leave it out the next day, then we can come by and we won't cite you initially. We won't give you a fine, but we can and will put a tag on your door or on your cart so you know that it's not acceptable. There is an ordinance on that. Now, a lot of times we don't get around to every neighborhood every week, but if you give us a call, we would be glad to address your concern at those particular households.
I do have a question, sir. It's not identified in the UDO. When you look at the UDO on page maybe 24 or chapter 22 on the UDO, it's not identified in the UDO.
No, you're correct, sir. It's not in the UDO. It's in the regular city ordinance.
Right.
It's in the chapter 22, I believe, in the solid waste ordinance.
The solid waste ordinance
Yes.
is in there, but when you update, you look at the UDO, it's not in the UDO.
Doesn't have to be. The UDO is for development rules, but we have a lot of other laws that are in the city code of ordinances. So if it's about new development, it'll be in the UDO, but there'll be plenty of other things that'll be in other parts of the city ordinance. But you can look at online. So we have a section on solid waste, on animals, on parks, or whatever.
Well, I have a question then, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. You're off to a good start.
My name is Keith Howard. I'm with Newton Place coordinator. My question, I have two questions real quick. First question is, in Newton Place, we in the community, we have a bike club. And so my first question, I guess, is for the gentleman. When we're out on Cliffdale, we ride on the road. One of the questions that's come up is that, you know, we have a wellness in our subdivision. Bike lanes. You know, is there something in the future that we have bike lanes on Cliffdale or somewhere in the city have some type of bike lanes? So
Great question.
Ride on there safely out there on the road. Because we do go out, we have some of this neighbors that ride with us in our subdivision. They're on cruises. And you know, the sidewalk, that's great. We feel great that they have a sidewalk going up and down Cliffdale. But we have people that are walking. And then they're with their, you know, walking their dogs or they're power walking or they're, you know, with their strollers. And we just get on the side of the road and we ride. But it's terrible. Riding on Cliffdale. So that's the first one. Is there any plan on putting bike lanes out on Cliffdale?
The short answer to that is no, sir. Cliffdale, again, is a DOT street now. What we are doing as DOT begins to improve roadways around the city, Murchison is one that's scheduled, Bingham is one that's scheduled, Owen Drive is one that's scheduled. What we're trying to do is work with them because they haven't implemented a policy called Complete Streets to where, you know, all modes of transportation are incorporated into new projects. That it's a little tougher to retrofit facilities with those type improvements, but on new projects, a lot of times there's a lot of opportunity for it. So if either bike lanes or at the minimum maybe about 2 foot wider outside lanes. For example, the outside of the right lane would say be 14 feet wide and the inside lane would be 12 or 11. So that at least does give a little better separation between cars and bicyclists, for example. As far as other things that the city's doing, in a lot of neighborhoods, we're installing what we call multi-use lanes. We hesitate sometimes to throw out the term bike lanes because we don't prohibit them exclusively for bikes. And there is some parking in some of the places, but at least for the majority of those roadways, it's pretty clear. So it does delineate the space between the bikes, and peds can use that because a lot of the neighborhoods don't have sidewalks. So that does provide some area for bikes, peds, and you know, we do have some parkers there because there's a lot of older neighborhoods that don't have space to park on their own lot. So we're working through that through the city. We've identified a lot of routes that are wide enough to do that. It's a pretty cheap improvement, you know, to install pavement markings. It's a pretty low maintenance. So we're going to continue to pursue those throughout the city. I mean, there's some areas. What we try and do is, as Jeff develops his resurfacing program, we check those streets to ensure if they're wide enough. If we do, we go ahead and install markings along those resurfaced streets, and we try and provide some connectivity through some, you know, maintenance funds to maybe connect neighborhoods as a part of that resurfacing while the striping contractor's there. So we're trying to beg, borrow, and steal, you know, to get as many pavement markings in as we can, at the minimum, to provide that delineation between cars and bicycles.
That would help along the way, definitely with us. And I know in Newton Place we're doing this wellness program, and it's working. And you know, it's helping make Fayetteville fitter. And along the way, you know, we're building a stronger community. Yep. And a healthier community.
And we're seeing a lot of increase in the bicyclist, pedestrian. We're seeing a lot of increase in those different modes of travel other than just a car. So we're trying to get as much installed as we can.
We just need your help with that. We need your help with that. The second
part,
putting it on a road diet. Yeah. The second part of that, while we're out on the road and we're out there, the second part of that is, and we're going past some of the people in my subdivision going to the bus stops. And as they're at the bus stops, there's no bus shelters. They're out there, you know, we're out there riding and it starts raining and they're out there and it's starting to rain, there's no bus shelters. So is there any plan of action to put into effect any type of bus shelters that are out along Cliffdale, because I know there's 4 or 5 handicapped women that are out there with their, walkers or their motorized wheelchairs, and they're training them, man, and that's just totally not cool, dude. So is there anything to help some of these other people from Cliffdale West, from West Point, and I'm a disabled vet, and there's some other disabled vets that are out and around. Is there any plan of action to put up any more shelters around the city?
Well, we have installed a lot of over the last few years. Installed a lot of shelters. Again, we can't put them at all stops. We've actually adopted a standard. City Council did that based on how many people use that stop in a daytime as to whether or not it is deserving of a bench or a shelter. And we try to stick with that, but we have some other ones. Now, in terms of sidewalks, we've been working a lot with engineering and infrastructure to add sidewalks, and we've spent a lot of our transit funds to sort of partner with them so we can get some new sidewalks, like along Cliffdale between Skyville and Libeth. That's a new sidewalk that's just completing. There's some other ones that we've been working on over the last few years, and some other ones that are in the works. Particularly with our new route on Strickland Bridge Road, we have some more sidewalk work that needs to be done in there. But we had to get some things to get bus stops in. But we will, and we'll work with you in terms of where those locations are. But we do, again, sort of as a merit, or as Ted said, as they use for roads in terms of warrants, but in terms of what stop merits, that type of amenity, we want to try to use our resources the best we can to put them at the locations where people are going to use them most.
Well,
and that's the limitation we have.
Yes, sir. And the reason why I say that is because back home in New York, I'm from New York, and back home in New York, what they do is they have different types, and they have the plexiglass bus stop shelters. And what they do is the city put advertisements in them.
Yeah,
So they
yes.
sell the shelters, they sell the space for advertisements.
Yes.
So they're generating revenue. So the city's actually generating revenue.
We have looked at that, and again, and Lee's pointed out too, a lot of our roadways and a lot of roadways we use are state roadways,
Right.
and we're investigating that, but there's been a long-standing policy that they will not allow us to put advertising on shelters along state roadways. And so, now where that comes from, we don't know, but that is a policy that's been there. Okay.
Okay, this is fun, and we hope that you're enjoying it. There's a gentleman way in the back who's apparently had his hand up longer than anybody else. I heard. Oh, she's the one. Is it Stella?
Yes.
Stella's the one?
Yeah. Okay, my
All right.
question is this: since Chief Bedlon announced amnesty for illegal weapons, have we seen any success in that?
I'm going to let Catherine or the chief answer that. I mean, that's been pretty recent, so I don't know that we've had much time to go on that. But before I let Catherine take the mic, we're running out of time. We're going to do this again next year, but we're also coming to each part of the city. The city's divided into 3 districts, right? So we have Campbellton, Cross Creek, and what we're currently calling Central District. Twice a year, we go to each district, and just because you don't live in that district doesn't mean you can't come to that meeting, where we're doing something very similar. And the idea is that you're the leadership of your community watch, your neighborhood watch, but at those meetings, sometimes it's members of your neighborhood watch will go to those, so they may have their own questions. So we will continue to be on the road. I guess that's 6 times a year, plus this meeting is 7 times a year. So at a fairly regular basis, we should be out and about to do this. All these folks are available by phone or email. Catherine wants to say a couple of things. They have a short video, and then we'll stay for a few minutes kind of after, spread around the room, but we do have to get out of here by 8. So that we're going to have to move to that, and that's how I would like us to address any further questions at this point. So Catherine?
That's a loaded question that Stella threw out here. Amnesty for firearms is going to be a hot topic. It's an interesting concept, and there's a lot of legal issues behind that. So with that said, we're exploring it. We've definitely got to develop some guidelines. We've got to get some partners on board with how we're going to manage that. We have had one gun turned in, but when you talk about turning in a gun that's been used in a commission of a crime and how we work through that, those are the types of issues that we really have to develop a process for on how we're going to manage that. Chief Medlock has brought a lot of really great ideas to this department. This is another one that we need to explore. We're looking at the potential of a gun buyback to see how we might can do that as well. So putting it out there, because really one of the things he wanted me to share tonight is as of the end of June, we've experienced an 11.4% crime decrease, which is huge for our city. But the violent crime is still an issue, and the violent crime involving kids and kids with guns and teenagers with guns and young adults with guns is really off the chain, and that's what we really need to work through to address. So to answer your question, Stella, we got a lot of work to do on that and figure it out, but he's really good about telling us, go do this, figure it out, and that's what we're going to do. So I would like to thank our crime prevention specialists. All 6 of them are here tonight. They put this event together. We also have a couple of our COPS volunteers who helped out, and a couple of our Families of the Badge volunteers who helped out. And you talk about just a small group of people putting together a phenomenal event. They always do a great job. We also have some command staff here tonight. Our district commanders, our sector lieutenants, everybody's wearing their white shirts. Captain Hunter over investigations, Lieutenant Joyce, our public information officer, Lieutenant Sparks, who's over our patrol support unit. So really appreciate everybody who's here tonight, all of you coming out. Really good questions. And a lot of times when we have our community watch meetings, we're not good at answering some of these types of questions that you ask. So this was a really good opportunity to address those types of questions, and you put a face with a department and a name. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over. So, Ms. Are you doing it? Okay. Brief video on National Night Out. Really important event for this community, and we have really good community participation, and we'd like to encourage more.
National Night Out is Tuesday, August 5th, and I would like to encourage you to get involved. National Night Out is an effort to build safer and better neighborhoods through community involvement. It's a great night to get to know your neighbors, to build trust, camaraderie, and send a message to criminals that your neighborhood is no place for them. While the one night is certainly not an answer to crime, drugs, and violence, National Night Out represents a kind of spirit, energy, and determination to help make neighborhoods a safer place year-round. To find out how you and your neighborhood can get involved, please call 433-1033 or 433-1034. I look forward to seeing you on August 5th during National Night Out.